Casey Joyner covers the NFL, and the Eagles made a big trade over the weekend. We'll dive right into that. Casey, I know you liked Bradford. He had a good end of the year here. First off, your thoughts on Minnesota's end, calling up the Eagles and offering a first-round pick.
Well, if you're Minnesota, you think you're in a Super Bowl window with Bridgewater under center. You nearly won the wild card playoff game last year, and you've got the kind of team that can travel on the road if you've got to win a road playoff game. So I think they think we're not that far away, and you don't want that window may only last 3 or 4 years. So why, if you got to trade away your first round pick, that's fine as long as it gets you through that window or keeps you in contention for that Super Bowl during that season. Because otherwise, what are you doing? You're just wasting the season away. Because Sean Hill's never taken you to the Super Bowl.
Let me ask you this then. This is Bradford's 6th coordinator in 5 years. I mean, it seems like he's got a new one every 6 months. Does this offense fit him? It seems like we're asking that question about him every couple of weeks. Does this offense fit him? Does this offense fit him?
It's going to be interesting because the Vikings were talking about they've got the North Turner Air Coryell offense throwing a lot of vertical passes, but they're going to incorporate more power running in there, and they're going to be doing some more spread stuff. They're incorporating other elements in there. Well, we know Bradford can work in a spread system. He's done that. Power running game, that's just handing the ball off. That's fine. He could do that. And mind you, can he throw vertical? Again, as I've mentioned many times, Bradford during the second half of last year led the league in vertical yards per attempt, and in 2013 he finished 6th in vertical yards per attempt, and in neither case did he have receivers that you would think would be top 10 or upper tier in the league caliber receivers that will allow you to do that. So I think he can post those kind of numbers in a North Turner offense, a vertically inclined offense in Minnesota. I think he could be a top 10 vertical passer this year.
All right, so what about now if you're Philadelphia? You're going with a rookie quarterback who has played, 20, 40 snaps maybe in his entire preseason. He's missed 3 weeks due to injury. Do you play Carson Wentz right away?
The only reason you don't is if you think he's so far behind that it might destroy him, because you can help him develop in the early season like this, but you can also destroy him. I think about a situation like what John Elway did back in the day. The Broncos decided to put John Elway under center for his first few games, and that season he was out there for a time, but then eventually they said, look, he's not up to us. We got to get him out of here before he gets hurt and he gets hit so often that he would just crush his psyche. So if you think Wentz can handle it, and you could tell him, hey, you're going to struggle, and when you do, don't worry about it. You're our quarterback, and we're going to keep you protected, but don't worry about struggling because we're going to keep you in there. If you think he can handle it mentally, yeah, go ahead and put him up there game one, because it doesn't do him any good to learn from the bench.
I know we haven't seen a whole heck of a lot. I don't know what you saw of him in college, but do you look at a guy who looks ready? I mean, I know we only saw small sample sizes, but as Peterson said, he said, I saw in OTAs this guy was ready. From the first time he stepped out there, he looked like he was ready to play. So does he have, the skill set and the intangibles that you think he can succeed at? I don't want to say he's going to take a team to the playoffs, but can he handle himself as a rookie in this league?
He looked a hell of a lot better than Goff did, so that Goff has looked terrible. And Wentz is, from what we've seen, he's looked better. So I'll put it this way: he doesn't seem to be the sort of guy, and this is a non-statistical analysis, but he doesn't seem to be the sort of guy who cracks under pressure easily. I think he's the sort of guy when you put him out there that he wants to step out there and he's going to try and command the huddle and things. So I think that's probably what they're talking about as much as being able to read defenses, because I expect that he's going to be like any even good quarterback during a rookie season. Peyton Manning threw a ton of interceptions his rookie season. Eli did. A lot of quarterbacks go out there in the rookie season and they just force passes into coverage. So I think the Eagles realize we're going to see some mistakes from this guy. He's going to take some chances, but they're okay with that because he's the sort of guy that if he throws an interception in one play, he seems to have the kind of mindset that says, I can come back, throw a touchdown on the next. And if you've got that guy, get him under center.
Casey Joyner's with us, ESPN.com, NFL Insider, at Casey Joyner, TFS on Twitter. Casey, is this an ideal situation for a rookie quarterback? You look at Philly's roster on offense. I know a lot of times the best players go to the worst teams, and the Eagles weren't even one of the worst teams. But does this team have enough around him to help him out, or is this going to be a tough transition?
The Eagles did very well in good blocking rate last year, so they can run the ball and they can protect the passer. At least ostensibly they can if they can continue what they did last year. The receiving core isn't great, but you've got the makings. You've got good tight ends. Matthews is a good possession receiver, good slot guy. So, I mean, you've got some good talents there. You've got some quality running backs. You've got a defense that isn't great, but isn't, their team's in a lot worse shape. So, for a rookie quarterback to come into this situation, it's not the most favorable, mind you, but hey, this is not a terrible situation. If you're, a lot of rookie, you'd rather be in this position than again you would be in Jared Goff's situation in Los Angeles, because in Los Angeles they've got a lot of bigger issues besides having Todd Gurley and a decent defense. They got about nothing else.
Casey, would you have rather had a scenario maybe where Daniel starts a few weeks and then go to Wentz, or do you think the Eagles are doing it the right way by throwing him into the fire?
Again, if they think that personally, it depends on if you're trying to develop a quarterback or if you're trying to win games. And I don't know, though, that Chase Daniel is going to win you many more games than Carson Wentz. Like, let's say you kept Daniel out there for, 5 or 6 games. Okay, let's say you think you can maybe go 3-3 in those situations. Is Wentz going to maybe help you go 4-2? Maybe. Might he make you go 2-4? Maybe. But I think he's probably going to be able to put up about the same numbers that Chase Daniel. So for the Eagles are going, let's find out what we've got of this guy right now, because in the event that, say, they think that Wentz turns out not to be the guy, you'd rather find out sooner or later. And if you sit him a half season this year, you're going to find out a half season later, and they might have found out otherwise.
Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill, Pete Thompson talking with Casey Joyner as the Eagles get ready. We'll talk a lot throughout this season with Casey on all the games and the NFL stories here. I want to look at Philadelphia making that trade today. They trade Eric Rowe, who was a corner. He got drafted, but played safety in college. It just seemed that they never liked him, that he never fit in here. Do you see a guy that goes to New England and ends up thriving out there? I mean, here's a guy who was a second-round pick, big physical kid. I always wondered why they wouldn't give him a shot to play safety. They never even looked at him at that spot. They were dead set on playing him at corner in Philly. Do you think Belichick got a steal here, getting his hands on a former second-rounder?
I did. I'm looking at Eric Rowe's 2015 numbers, how he did last year coverage-wise. And I'm looking at his numbers on his overall yards per attempt is 6.1 yards is what I had him graded as. If you're below 7 is league average, 7 and change is league average, so you're above average there. His vertical numbers, he had 5.7 yards per attempt on vertical passes, 5.9 on stretch vertical passes. Again, we're talking a fairly small sample size. That's really good. Those are fantastic numbers for that type of the coverage depth. So I'm looking at that going, I really don't understand why you didn't think Rowe could. It's not that he didn't have the talent. And again, what he played like last year, it wouldn't be a guy that I'd be looking at those numbers going, this is somebody I think I should trade for or something. So I would think there's got to be something behind the scenes that caused this, because I don't think talent's the issue here.
No, I agree. I just don't think he, for some reason, didn't fit in. Casey, going back to OTAs, Schwartz, they never mentioned him ever. Whenever you would hear about the secondary, his name never came up here. Like, it was almost like they went out of their way to keep him out of the mix.
Yeah, maybe it's some politics or something of that nature, but that's really, and again, I don't want to cast aspersions where I don't know exactly what happened or what the reasons for it, but all I can tell you is what I saw on tape. And I saw on tape is a guy who, if he's not a starting caliber cornerback, he's a guy, if you told me the Eric Rowe played last year, you said he's one of your top 3 cornerbacks, I'm good with that. I think you can win a lot of games with him, especially compared to the way the rest of the Eagles secondary was playing. So that you couldn't find a situation for him to succeed in, it says that maybe there was something else out there. But if it's something else, if it's a personnel thing where you just said, hey, we don't think he fits our system, I think you need to find coaches who get those players to fit the system, because you don't want to give up talents like that if you don't have to. Well,
are you surprised when you hear the Eagles secondary is Leotis McKelvin, Nolan Carroll, and Ron Brooks, that he didn't get a sniff, or do you like those guys?
McKelvin I like a lot. Brooks I'm okay with. Carroll, what I saw to Rowe last year, I'd rather have him over Carroll. Carroll's solid, but I think Rowe's got a higher upside. So to me, I can understand why. I'd like Rowe to be. If you put those guys there, I'm probably putting him either second or third. He's going to be behind McKelvin, but maybe second or maybe he's third. I don't put him fourth though.
All right, let me get your opinion. You look at the Eagles' safety spot. We've heard a lot of people say they might have one of the best tandems in the league after years of having lousy tandems. The Nate Allens of the world, they've been rolling guys through here since Dawkins left. Malcolm Jenkins and Rodney McLeod, the old Sixer forward, Rashawn McLeod. Rodney McLeod, do you like that tandem, and do you think that is a top pair in the NFL?
I would take that as an upper tier. Let's put the upper third of the league. tandem in that area. Because I'm looking for it. You're looking for two things out of safeties. You want to make sure they can come up for runs, but really what you want to try and do is make sure that they can stop vertical passes. And last year, the Eagles on vertical passes, they were solid on vertical passes. In fact, they were very good on vertical passes. So I'm looking at that tandem going, I think they can do both of those things. And the thing is they don't blow a lot of coverages. The Eagles, a couple of years ago, they had a real big problem with blown coverages. We're near the bottom of the league in blown coverages. And last year, they were in the upper half of the league. So I think they could be even better than that because not all that's on the safeties. You can have linebackers blow coverage too. So I think they've gotten rid of a lot of the mistakes they're making. And I think if they can keep improving in that area, I think they could. This could be a top 10 vertical coverage unit, which is, again, that's a really big thing to have, a really big plus to have in a division that's going to have Washington throwing deep to Jackson. It's going to have the Giants throwing deep to both OBJ and Shepard, and with Dallas throwing deep to Bryant. You better have somebody who can stop it deep. So I like it.
What do you see from Dorial Green-Beckham, Casey, and is that a guy you like?
Dorial Green-Beckham, I'm up and down on him. When you look at his metrics, you find that he posted a double-digit yards per attempt last year when you put him up against a starting caliber cornerback. And if you get a double-digit yards per attempt in any category is a positive thing, and that's one of the toughest categories to get a double-digit yards per attempt. So that's a plus. But you can also look at his metrics and go, wow, the guy does terrible on short passes. You can put him up against other levels of coverage, and he doesn't play quite as well. I think he's a guy who you've got to continually get him to play to his talent level because I think he tries to see if he can go at 75% and succeed, and that hasn't worked for him. And if they can get him to play to close to his talent level, I think he'll be a really good vertical threat. Even if you only throw him 50 passes, he's going to be a guy who's going to make an impact if you can get him to play to his talent level.
Yeah, it's interesting because for years, and, Pete, we watched the game the other night. What game did we watch? What was that? The third preseason game.
Yeah, the fade route against the Colts.
Exactly.
That's something Eagles fans have wanted to see since Terrell Owens was around.
Yeah, we've been looking for that guy that can go into the back of that corner and just go, throw the ball up. And what I saw, Casey, what I liked from Peterson, the way they set that play up, is they went 3 tight ends on the opposite side of the field and really made the defense have to go that way and let DGB go one-on-one. If that's a scenario that they can really try to go with this season, that would be a spot where you would see, Dorial Green-Beckham really have a big role.
Exactly. It might only be that he doesn't have to be. I don't think he has to be. It'd be great if he was, but I don't think he has to be a workhorse wide receiver. I don't think I don't think you measure his success as you were saying. He threw him 150 targets, and it'd be great if he could. But if you say we can put him in situationals, we could say fine, you can go vertical and beat somebody deep. Okay, we can get you in the end zone and put you in a jump ball situation. You can win there because that's a lot of what Gronkowski does as far as for the Patriots. It's a different position, but you put him out there, and that's one of the best values that he has. You match it up and say you're going to have to stop us in the middle, and we're going to make sure we get power here in the middle and heavy jumbo up here, and you're going to have to stop it. And we know we've got one-on-one on the outside, and we can win that battle. I mean, that's a big plus, and it may only pan out to a few plays a year. But again, if you're talking, you're winning 4, 5, 6 jump balls. Well, now you score maybe 4, 5, 6 touchdowns. So I think if you can get him 50 to 75 passes where he's playing to his talent level, and you can get him into those sorts of situations, I think it's going to be a great trade. All
right, here we go. Before we're going to get into some NFL stuff. Better year, Prescott or Wentz?
I'm going to say, gosh. That's
at least
tough.
It sounds close.
Yeah, it's close. I'm probably going to say Prescott because he's going to be able to throw let's say he stayed up there the whole year. If he threw 150 passes to Dez Bryant, you're looking at Wentz going, okay, who are you throwing 150 passes to? Your top guy is not going to be as good as Dez Bryant. So I think I give the edge to Prescott.
Do you think Prescott makes the Cowboys make a tough decision when Romo's ready?
Yeah, he certainly does, because if he plays anywhere near to what he did both in the preseason and what he did last year, where he showed tremendous improvement in vertical production, he had, I think, a 10-3 in touchdown interception ratio. He had a terrific total QBR, but he can play anywhere near that level. When Cowboys get back out there, you've got a 36-year-old quarterback who's got repeated physical issues, and you don't know that he's going to be right. They talk about him playing till 40. I think he can play till 37. If you think that he can't play there at that level and say, hey, what I would probably do if I'm the Cowboys, and put it this way, if I'm the Cowboys, I probably adopt the philosophy that teams used to adopt in the 50s, where you'd say, okay, guess what? I'm going to play Prescott. He's going to be my starter, and Romo's going to be my relief pitcher. lot that's happened a lot in NFL history. Maybe Don Strock or Charlie Connolly can say, you're going to be a relief pitcher. If Prescott's not playing well, you come in there. Prescott could be the starter. Romo could be the reserve, and there you go. Now you get the best of both worlds. Interesting.
Casey Joyner is with us, ESPN.com NFL Insider here, looking at the start of the NFL season as a couple storylines. What do you think Ezekiel Elliott, behind that Dallas line? Do you think because they ran the ball good last year. They weren't like they were the year before with DeMarco, but are they back to that style? Is Elliott more DeMarco-esque?
Yeah, he's a guy. He was a definite bell cow at Ohio State. He had elite numbers as far as carries go. He also, by the way, he ranked over the last 2 seasons, he's tied for 18th in receptions among Power 5 running backs. So the guy can catch the ball, too. And you can put him behind that offensive line. That offensive line last year had about as bad of a situation around it as you could have. Suddenly you've got no vertical threat at all because Bryant's banged up and Bryant's out of the game. Or when Bryant is in there, he's not playing well because anybody can throw in the ball. So you're not putting any kind of vertical threat in the defense, and that offense still posted a top 10 rating in my good blocking rate metric that measures how effective an offensive line is at run blocking. So if you can do that well in that situation, and now you get a quarterback, let's say Prescott can hit vertical passes and put a threat in the defense, I think that number can move to top 5, or you could be threatening for the top spot. You get Ezekiel Elliott running behind an offensive line blocking that well, he's a 1,500-yard back.
Kirk Cousins, follow that year up. What's he do?
He had the second highest variance between short passes and vertical passes. In other words, he threw 13 more vertical touchdown passes than he did, or short touchdown passes than he did vertical passes. He needs to even that number out. If Jackson stays healthy, then Cousins can even that number out, and then he's going to be, he could be their long-term guy. But that's what Washington wants to see. It's why they're not fully committed to him, because they think we can get anybody to throw dink and dunk passes. You did really good at it last year. You got to be able to go vertical, and if he can go vertical, then he can be an elite quarterback. But I think it's all going to be on Jackson, because if Jackson doesn't stay healthy, I think the same situation.
They got the pieces though to go. I mean, they have the pieces to be a really good offense with Reed at tight end, Deshaun, Jones at running back. I don't know what he was banged up a little bit.
All the running backs are banged.
Yeah, they got some pieces on that offense to be an offensive-oriented team.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, if Doxson pans out, then they can get another vertical threat and things. That's really what they need, though. They need to have more than, because once Jackson went down last year, the vertical game just shut down. That's why they went with all the dink and dunk stuff, because they just didn't have anybody to go vertical too. So, I mean, they have to develop. If they can get a second vertical threat, and maybe even a third guy who can be an alternate in case one of the first 2 guys gets hurt. I mean, if they can do that, that makes all the difference for their offense. But they've got to be able to go vertical, because last year it was all dink and dunk and all running, and they just weren't hitting deep passes at all.
Casey Joyner looking at inside the NFC East right now. We're getting ready for the start of the season. Thursday night, you can listen to that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. It's Broncos and the Panthers. Let me ask you about Norman and how he fits on that Washington defense, because there's a lot of people who think he was a product of the Panthers.
I'm of that mindset in that he wasn't just a product of the Panthers. He developed well in that system. They put a good system around him, and he was able to reach the upper tier of his talents and things. Washington, though, the last few years, I mean, they've been hit or miss in developing their secondary people, and it's they'll have people who are talents, and suddenly they don't play anywhere near to their talent level. So I think they're probably going to leave him on an island more than Carolina did, or maybe they're going to be more of a shadow corner than Carolina had him be. And if they do that, I don't know that that's necessarily his best skill set. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a decline, but he's still probably an upgrade over what they had last year.
Enjoying this conversation. We'll preview all the games on Thursday when Casey joins us here. I do want to get a quick couple Giant questions in here. Did they do enough on defense? Because they have the same offense virtually. I mean, they've got a lot of the pieces back on offense. Their line's still shaky. The run game's still iffy. They do have Beckham. But, this is the question for them was they were horrible last year on defense.
Yeah, they were. The thing we were talking earlier about Philadelphia and out their vertical pass, or their coverage errors, and if they're going to give up big plays and coverage errors. The Giants gave up 29. They have 29 major coverage errors. They gave up 633 yards and 8 touchdown passes. Those are some of the highest numbers in the league in that category. So I want to see them as much, not just the talent upgrade, but can you get your players to be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there? Because that's a big part of why you have those kind of coverage errors. Do you have a coverage error like that? I mean, you're essentially giving up either a big chunk of yardage or a long touchdown pass uncontested. It's almost like an unforced error in tennis, and you just can't win if you've got those. And if New York can cut that number down, they didn't have to get to like the upper tier. If they can just cut that down by a third or by half, now you're talking 14 plays, maybe 4 touchdowns. It'd be a huge difference. So that's what I'm interested to see as much as are they going to play smart as much as they're going to play well.
Yeah, and Eli, he's the elder statesman now in this division, right? I mean, at quarterback with Romo out, Cousins, still a young guy, and then you got the rookie. This is Eli. He's running out of chances. Yeah,
he is. And the point is that you really don't want to, as good as Eli can be and as good as OBJ can be. If Odell Beckham got hurt, that passing game kind of, I don't know if it collapses, but actually probably does, actually. It collapses pretty significantly. So you don't want to funnel everything through him quite as often. You want to make sure you can spread it around a little bit more and develop those other players and things. And you want to use the guys you have in your backfield because they've got a lot of talent in their backfield. So if I'm the Giants, I don't want to see, as much as they are a pass-first offense, I want to move some of those passes over to running plays or even to just, running plays or passing plays that are really running plays and take a little bit of pressure off of Eli in that thing because I don't want to get into shootouts with this defense. I want to make sure I protect it as much as I can.
We'll have more talk on all the games Thursday. Casey joins us on Mondays and Thursdays this football season. I always look forward to that. Casey, I'm going to run down the divisions real fast. You give me your winner, all right?
Okay.
AFC East, who you got?
Patriots.
North.
Steelers.
Ooh, all right. South.
Jaguars.
Wow.
Surprise team. I like what they did in defense a lot, and I think Bortles took a big step last year.
The West.
Denver, close, but Denver.
2 wild cards are?
2 wild cards would be Cincinnati and Kansas City.
All right, I went Patriots, Cincy, Houston, KC, not Joyner, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. All right, NFC West.
The West, I would take Seattle.
South?
Tough one. I think Carolina's going to drop back, but I still got to give them the division.
North?
Green Bay.
And the East?
I would have to say, tough call, Washington.
Your 2 wild cards are?
2 wild cards would be Minnesota and Arizona.
All right. I got Washington, Minnesota, Carolina, Arizona, Green Bay, Seattle. So we're pretty close in the NFC side. Jacksonville. All right. I know a lot of people like them this year. I got a conundrum. I took Roethlisberger in my fantasy draft, and then I followed up with Bortles. I'm going to be fighting myself every single week on what to do there. I know Casey's also writing for ESPN WWE, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. I thought last night's edition of Monday Night Raw was one of the worst I ever saw.
I thought it had a nice start, and then it just collapsed. They couldn't follow. And the thing is, they got to follow up on last week's, which was fantastic. I understand why they didn't make Kevin Owens a babyface. I get why they didn't do that. But the crowd, based on last week's reaction, the crowd wants this guy to be a babyface. And I get that you're trying to make Seth Rollins a babyface right now, but give Rollins his run. But pretty soon the crowd's not going to take no for an answer, and you're going to have to make Owens a babyface. And when he gets there, I have a feeling that he'll make a big impact because they need babyfaces on that show.
Pete's looking at me like, what is he talking about?
No,
right now?
I'm finding it highly entertaining.
That is Casey Joyner. You can find him, of course, covering the NFL over at ESPN.com, NFL Insider, and the new WWE on ESPN on Twitter, WWE on ESPN on Twitter, where they recap Raw, they talk wrestling. And was that your interview with Bob Backlund?
That was an interview with Bob Backlund. I went to Bob's house to interview him, and there was an interesting video there where he explains he has a spot where Ivan Koloff put him in what's called a short arm scissor, and then he lifts Ivan Koloff up and carries him across the ring. And I asked Bob how his endurance levels helped him do that, because Bob now is he's a motivational speaker trying to spread the word on positive thinking and physical fitness.
Hey, by the way, when I talked to you last night, you mentioned something about a Bradford article. Are you working on that? Did that drop yet?
Hasn't dropped yet. It's going to drop later this week. It has been filed. It hasn't dropped, and it talks about Bradford, what he does for the Vikings' Super Bowl chances.
All right, well, we will talk about that on Thursday's show. We will also preview all of the NFL games. Yes, games with Casey Joyner Thursday right here on the Sports Bash. Thanks, pal.
Appreciate it, guys.